there finally light at the end of the tunnel for Nigeria's petroleum sector? With the Federal Executive Council giving the green light for the Naira for crude deal, could this possibly mark the end or the beginning, I should say, of true sustainability? More importantly, what Nigerians are actually asking for is not only availability of petrol, but to buy it as cheap as possible. This will get us talking on the show today, even as we have a continuation of our conversation that has to do with management of traffic that we started last week on the show. We've got two guests on the program this evening, even as I welcome you to another edition of the Newsroom. The Newsroom is a program where we take a critical assessment of the big stories that have made the rounds in the course of the last 7 days. Ufuoma Egbamuno is my name, and it's a pleasure to be here to bring you this particular show. Before we get into the thick of the action, quickly let me let you know some of the top stories that have made the rounds in the course of the last 7 days. We saw the Lagos State government sealing off 13 markets in the K2 and Mile 12 areas of the state for illegal waste disposal. We also saw the federal government telling us that Lagos is among 30 states that are at high risk of flooding this year. And we saw the president of Nigeria's Senate, Godswill Akpabio, petition the police over the assassination allegation by suspended Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. We also saw the National Broadcasting Commission banning the new single by Idris Abdul Karim titled Tell Your Papa, which, of course, if you haven't heard the song, well, it criticizes President Bola Tinubu's administration. We also saw the Lagos State government say it will begin publishing of names of people who have been defaulting in the land use charge, and the city will do that starting this week. The federal government also told us that nearly 700 properties will be demolished to make way for the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway, down from the earlier estimate of 1,500. You could say this is good news. Those are some of the stories that made the rounds. Of course, on the international scene, the war between the US and China, just continued. Tariff here, tariff there. And we, the common man, will be made to suffer, so to speak. Maybe not necessarily Nigeria, but, Anyway, that's not the main focus of the show today. Like I did say in my intro, we will be looking at issues of petrol availability, even as we're trying to reach out to of course, our guest on the show today. But we'll try as much as possible to have that sorted out in a bit. But just before we get into the guest, let me let you know that marketers in Nigeria are predicting cheaper petrol, as the Federal Executive Council last week directed the full implementation of the suspended Naira for crude agreement with local refineries. It was disclosed by Nigeria's Minister of Finance last week, Wednesday. The first phase of the 6-month deal involving the federal government and the Nigeria National Petroleum Company Limited, as well as Dangote, ended March 31st. It led to a bit of speculations whether or not this was going to continue. It even got to the point where petrol prices started going up. However, the good news is that after 22 days of suspension, we can now tell you that Dangote Refinery resumed sales of its refined petroleum products to its partners and marketers in local currency. The gist about this whole thing is that it makes it easy for petrol price to actually come down. Well, there's been a new price reduction of 15 naira from 880 naira per litre that was sold by Dangote last week Wednesday, and the Federal Executive Council, representing the federal government, says the policy is not temporary but a long-term plan to ensure that Nigeria's dependence on foreign exchange for petroleum is reduced to the barest minimum. Joining us on the show this evening is the National Publicity Secretary of the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria. My producer, Emmanuel Onwoka, is still trying to get through to him. So just bear with us for a few seconds. Hopefully, we'll be able to get that. We did speak with him just about a couple of minutes ago, but maybe struggling to actually get through with the phone lines right here in the studio. But as we're hoping to get that sorted out, let me... Hello? Hello? Okay. Sometimes these things happen. Sometimes these things happen where we have technical issues all of a sudden. But hopefully, Mr. Kadike will be joining us in a bit as we're trying to reach him via other portals, and so that we can have these conversations as it concerns how we're going to be able to sort out this going forward. Because as a Nigerian, it would be great if I'm able to actually buy petrol at a cheaper price. Looks like finally we have been able to get through to our guest. A very good evening to you, sir. Can you hear me? Hello?
Hello?
Oh, okay. Doesn't look like we were able to... goodness me, sometimes all of these technical issues can really make things a bit dodgy. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. But anyway, hopefully we're able to sort that out. But just as we're trying to sort that out, maybe it's also time for us to have this conversation with Lagos. Maybe that would be, a bit of a solution for us, since we're struggling with getting through to our guest. How has it been for you over the last, let's say, 2 weeks? Let's make it 2 weeks now. How has it been for you, Lagos, getting to buy petrol? Personally, I think I haven't bought petrol. Okay, I think I bought last week. Did I? I think I bought last week, and it was seamless. Actually, I really didn't have an issue. Just walked into one of the filling stations here in VI, and it was actually seamless. But how has it been for you, since we're struggling with getting through to our guests? It would have been great to have that conversation with our guests, but technical issues. So would love to talk to you, Lagos. How has it been for you getting petrol over the last 2 weeks? Did the price go up? Did it go up at any point? If it did, what is it? What is the current situation now, knowing that it's about 5 days since the federal government went back to, of course, them with that policy of Naira for crude, which has, of course, enforced or has made Dangote also reduce the price of petrol with about 15 Naira. Has it reflected in you going to buy from your retail filling station? Has the price reduced? Did it go up at any point? Lagos, it would be great to actually hear from you, since we're having issues getting through to our guests on the show. The mail line 0201 277 0993. The female line 0201 465 7190. Let's talk Lagos. Hello, good evening. Welcome to the newsroom.
Good evening, Ufuoma.
Good evening to you.
Thank you. This is Chris.
Okay, Chris, welcome.
Yeah, I bought 930 yesterday. But I'm still waiting for that man. There's one of these marketers that come to Kofi's program. He said they're going to shock Nigerians the way they will crash the price of fuel. I'm still waiting for that guy. More than 4 months now. One of the marketers.
So what was it before now? You bought 9:30 yesterday. What was it before yesterday?
Before it was 8:65, like 2 weeks ago.
Okay, so after the whole stopping of whatever, it now moved to the 9:30.
9:30, yes.
Okay, so we're
But
hoping
that marketer said that they will shock Nigerians. I'm still waiting for that guy.
Okay. We're all waiting for the shock because all of us need
He's going to shock us with the price.
It's all right. Okay, thank you very much. Let's try and get other. You can also reach us via WhatsApp. The WhatsApp number is 080-9597-5805, or tweet at us at Nigeria Info FM, at Nigeria Info FM. That's another number with which you can reach us. Okay, more of your calls right now. Hello, good evening. Hello, good evening. Welcome to the newsroom.
Good evening, Mr. Ufuoma Egbamuno.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Okay.
At Ijegun, as at yesterday, 9:20. I bought to power gen so that things in the freezer will not go bad because power supply has been erratic.
It's
here.
been terrible.
It's been very terrible. But you won't believe it that for a whole week, no light, and they brought it maybe like 2 hours yesterday, and the next thing this morning we got bill of what we should pay for the month. Can you imagine?
Are you still on estimated
God
bill?
will help. I'm serious. Yes, we are. But we know that God will save us from this.
That estimated bill thing is quite problematic. It's
very frustrating. You hardly get light, and they want you to pay for full month bill. What are we paying for darkness? It's very, very unfair.
Crazy.
Thank you.
But thank you very much. I've been back from my leave for 3 weeks now. Since I came back, I have to be honest, I used to be very, I used to give kudos to VI, that my axis, we at least liked the try. He shocked me. The man is telling me that it shocked me, because of course when there's no power, the what do you call it, the pump can't work. So I've learned to make sure I fetch water in 2 buckets in the bathroom. I already have a 20 liter somewhere, and then I have another drum somewhere in the kitchen. The thing about me is that I always like to plan for these kinds of eventualities. So it's coming in handy now because I have to manage. Usually I do wake up early and take my bath but now I do it as a matter of must. Before 8 o'clock, I've had my bath so that I can use the buckets. Because if for any reason I have to stay back at home, by 10, 11 in the morning or 12, the water is gone. Because there will not be light until the gen is put on at 7 p.m. It is mad. It is crazy. Anyway, let me see if I can take one more call. Or I should take a message. Retire on WhatsApp says, I bought 925 naira at Lekki, but in all honesty, I've just reduced my movement. Perhaps this is the shock Chris is talking about. It's not funny. To be honest, it is not funny. The light situation is terrible. For those like the last caller from Ijegun that have to pay for estimated bill for things they did not use, and then you still have to buy petrol to power your gen or diesel, whatever it is, at such high prices. Anyway, I think this will be my cue to move on to the second segment of the show. Lagos. Last week, we started a conversation that has to do with managing traffic here in Lagos. And I did promise, because we really didn't have much time on the show, to speak to our guest. Well, thankfully, our guest last week decided to also give us or grace this show once again, so that we'll continue from where we actually stopped. Now, we had the Director of Public Affairs and Enlightenment of the Lagos State Traffic Management Authority, Mr. Debayo Taufik, on the show. Tell us some ways that LASMA has, the things they've been doing to ensure that traffic is managed particularly well. And one of the things he mentioned last week, if my memory serves me right, I do have a great memory, unlike Emmanuel Onwoka here. Just is in him. One of the things he talked about is the fact that they're trying to reduce as much human contact as possible. So the officials, now have cameras. So it's very easy. It's very easy for them to use those cameras to actually, ensure that whatever illegal thing you're doing on the road is caught on the record, and you can't argue. Even if you decide to fight, it's on the record that this is what you did. The aim, of course, is not to catch offenders. It's actually to ensure that traffic offense is reduced to the barest minimum. And if it happens, the ultimate plan is to ensure that there is less traffic jam on the road. And if that happens, it is you, the Lagosian or the Lagos resident, that will be better for it. You don't want a situation where you're held up in traffic for 2 or 3 hours. We don't want to see what happened, with the closure of the bridge some 2 weeks ago, where people had to deal with, is it 2 weeks ago now? Where people had to deal with trekking long distances. In fact, I had a maths problem last week. I had my boss, Femi, actually sent me a message and I didn't see it on time. I was calculating that my colleague who walked 11 kilometers, was about 8 or 9 times round a standard football field. No, it's actually way more than that. We don't want that kind of situation, just as we're trying to get through to, of course, our guest, Mr. Adebayo Taufik, to continue that conversation. It's also paramount that I let you know that this segment of the show is brought to you courtesy of the Lagos State Government. And we want to talk to our guest, hopefully when he joins in a matter of seconds, about the rise in nighttime accidents. It looks like it's become a thing on the Lekki-Ekpe Expressway. It looks like it's become a thing over there. So hopefully we want to see how we can, reduce that to the barest minimum, and also talk about how to manage traffic flow around the Lekki Phase 1 junction, Ligali Ayorinde, Zumbam Badiwe, all these axes, which is the Central Business District. Maybe not Lekki, but VI Shokikoyi Central Business District, where a lot of us Lagosians come from different parts of the city, be it coming from the Ekpe axis or coming from mainland. Managing the traffic in this axis to a large extent will help everybody. And just like the governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu said a couple of days ago, make that about 7-8 days ago, if we can find scenarios where employers are able to work out systems that would ensure people who can work from home do work from home, of course, the point of it all is that it will reduce human traffic coming into the island. Emmanuel, are we on to our guest? Honestly, it's not been the greatest of days when it comes to phone line connections right here in the studio. .3 Nigeria Info is the dial. The newsroom is the program. And of course, segment of the show. We call it the Lagos Newsroom, where we take a critical look at some of the issues that concerns you, the Lagosian, and how we would be able to ensure that things work out well for you because you live here in Lagos or you work here in Lagos. And my producer is still trying to get through the connection to get through to our guest, who is the Director of Public Affairs and Enlightenment at the Lagos State Traffic Management Authority, LASMA for short, Mr. Adebayo Taufik. He did promise he was going to join us on the show. Unfortunately, we're unable to connect to him just yet, but we'll still have time, and we'll keep trying, to ensure that we wrap up this conversation that has to do with managing traffic, because for the life of the average Lagosian here, managing traffic is one, that is very, very paramount and critical for how businesses and workplaces and generally life. You don't have to be conducting business or going to work. Generally life, it could be you want to get to the airport from Lekki Phase 1 to Ikeja. It could also be that you want to get to an interview in Victoria Island from Ijegun or Satellite Town, and sometimes management of traffic, you could argue even most times, could be a critical factor in determining whether or not that business works or your meeting your flight appointment works or your interview works, and so that's why this conversation is actually very, very important. I can actually hear myself. Lagos, my sincere apologies. The phone lines decided that today it wants to act up. Phone lines, we are even trying with our personal phones. Unfortunately, we still have not been able to get through to our guest. We'll keep trying. At least I still have another 15 minutes, yeah? There's still at least another 15 minutes of the show. But if for the next 2 or 3 minutes we're unable to get through to our guest, just like we did in the first half of the show, we will have this conversation with you tuned in to the program right now. Tell us what it's been like over the last 1 week coming into the island or traffic on the mainland, spots where usually have traffic log jams. How has it been over the last 1 week of your business or your work routine? And maybe for those who have now been working from home, maybe tell us also what it has been like. .3 Nigeria Info is the dial. Thankfully, after so much tries, we finally reached our guest on the show. Joining us on the newsroom this evening is the Director of Public Affairs and Enlightenment of the Lagos State Traffic Management Authority, Mr. Adebayo Taufik. A very good evening to you, sir. Welcome to the newsroom once again.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's nice to be with you this very cool evening.
All right, so we actually started this conversation last week, trying as much as possible to talk about traffic management here in Lagos. Now, the question I'm going to ask you is, it seems like there's been a rise in accidents during the night, especially along the Lekki-Ekpe Expressway. Is this something you guys have noticed at the agency?
Well, before you talk about probably maybe an increase in accident along any part of the state, you have to first of all look at the fundamental cause of most of these accidents. That is when you could be able to analyze areas at which you have high percentage of accidents in any part of the state. Now, ordinarily, you see, as a last man that is saddled with the responsibility of managing and controlling traffic, we also carry out what we refer to as public education. Public education in the sense that enlightening motoring public on do and don't on the road, equally what is expected of them before they move their vehicle from point A to point B. What I'm saying is putting their vehicle in a good condition in which at the end of the day it will be they will have a very perfect journey on the road. Now, most of these accidents you are talking about, you have a lot of people ignoring the adequate and comprehensive maintenance of their vehicle. And along the line, you have them having one or two problems out of the time at which they will need to, for example, a kind of a vehicle that regularly have a kind of a brake failure, because most of the accidents you want to talk about are accidents that were caused by probably a brake failure or overspeeding and what have you. And you look at the government in a holistic perspective, you see that the government is doing it. That's why we are educating the motoring public on the need for them to carry out adequate maintenance on their vehicle. The government itself, as a body, is looking at a way of reducing accidents on the road, and that was why the government came up with modern technology in controlling and managing traffic across the country. Now, like for as I said last week, we initially have what we refer to as a body cam camera. Now we are making use of TMS camera, and you can see about a couple of months ago, the Lagos State government started, having speed limits on major highways across the state. This is a kind of an approach at which to reduce accidents across the state. And the one you mentioned along this Lekki area at which we talked about, yeah, we carry out statistics along that axis as well. But we discovered that most of the accidents that happen along that area we have a very high rate of accident on Friday night to Saturday morning. And you discover that you see very percentage out of these very accidents are caused by people who are just coming from clubs, parties. People who are coming from parties and what have you, that might have got intoxicated in one way or the other. So that's just the study we carry out. And don't forget the fact that as a government body, we will move into most of these clubs, most of these joints, in enlightening and let them understand that even if you have to drink if you want to drive, you don't drink. And if you have to drink at all, you drink water.
Okay, tell that to the Lagos party people. But anyway, the golden rule still remains. If you have to drink, don't drive. And if you have to drive, don't drink. Okay.
Yeah. If you have to drink at all, you drink water. That's just the truth.
Okay. All right. I hope Lagosians are listening to you. There's also another critical issue we need to talk about, which is how LASMA has been managing traffic along the central business district. That's talking about Victoria Island, Ikoyi, Lekki Phase 1, axis. How has it been for you guys managing traffic in this axis? I'm talking Ozumba Mbadiwe, I'm talking...
It has been very hectic along that axis. If you look at trend of development now, you see that development around that axis is on the high side now. You see people moving from other part of the states now, moving straight to Lekki, Ikoyi, where have you, including other major companies springing up at that axis, particularly this Dangote refinery source and Lekki Free Trade Zone at that axis as well. As a proactive agency, we are there to say that, you see, with the advent and the establishment of this very business around that axis might accumulate into additional traffic at that area, and that was the reason why the government concentrated more on that area for now. Like, for example, as an agency, we have deployed more officers to that axis, and equally last month have just created additional 2 zonal offices at that area, one at Lekki and one at Songotedo as well, so that they could, have an officers that will be having 24 hours monitoring at that area. Equally, we have what we call the night gang team. Night gang team have been really refurbished by the present administration led by Mr. Olalekan Bakari. We call them rescue team. they move around at the midnight hour from anytime from 11, 12. They move around till around 5 a.m. in the morning. So that taxes has been a very, very, concentrated area by the government. And last one is not folding his arm to look at it. And that's more reason why we always carry out enforcement operation at that taxes regularly and equally carry out a public enlightenment. And if you look at that taxes as well, most of the road furniture, which you members of the public refer to as road sign, are being adequately provided at that area and other part of the state by the Lagos State Ministry of Transportation. These are the things that will genuinely checkmate excesses of some drivers along that area, and equally other modern technology at that area. And look at the government holistically, you see that there is ongoing expansion of road, expansion of T-junction roundabout at that axis now, in order to accommodate more vehicles on that very particular area.
Okay, all right. Talking about drivers, right now, there's this belief by most Lagosians that officials from LASMA usually give a lot of the commercial bus drivers a bit of a pass when they violate traffic infractions. When they commit these traffic infractions, many believe that officials of the agency LASMA give these commercial drivers a bit of a pass, as opposed to the guys who drive private cars. What do you have to say about this accusation?
Well, it has been a very long insinuation from the public. Not only that, even saying that LASMA do collect money from these commercial bus drivers. But I can't correct all this insinuation that they are all fallacy, because when you look at the statistic of LASMA enforcement, you will realize that more of these commercial vehicles have been apprehended by our agency. Let's look at what we did from January to December 2024. We realized that LASMA impounded about 16,250 vehicles for various for different traffic infractions across the state. Out of these 16,000 plus, we have 11,825 who are commercial buses being impounded by the Lagos State. This has really shown that the state government, LASMA, is really focusing on not only on commercial buses, equally on any vehicle that commits any traffic infraction. Don't forget, mid last year as well, we have some commercial buses around Ufuoma drivers who form an association of commercial bus drivers, said they want to embark on strike. And the CP, the then Commissioner of Police in Lagos State, invited LASMA, invited the NURTW and the Lieutenant to Lagos Police Command House at Ikeja, where they request from them what are their grievances. They said LASMA is solely after them, and that they are looking for a way at which LASMA will give them a kind of a free hand on Saturday and Sunday, saying that we should not be working on Saturday and Sunday. Around Dr. Muha Gege, Abule Egba Asis, Yanopaja. We now told them point blank that no, it is not possible. And they said, and that whenever they committed any traffic infractions, we normally use our camera to capture them. And that at every point in time, we always harass them after capturing them with our fish. And we told them that, look, as of the time you will commit this traffic infraction, it might be at a place where LASMA could not have the power to apprehend you, but we'll get you captured with our still camera and that of the video camera. But at our own comfort zone, probably you were held up in the traffic, and we discovered that you are part of those on our watch list. They automatically will get you apprehended. All these are evidences that no, we usually go more for commercial than private. But it's only the private one that have more access to social media, to communications, to reach out through various communication gadgets. That's the reason why you have them saying, if not, if most commercial drivers have equal opportunity with which private drivers are having, automatically they will be the one that will be expressing more enforcement from LASMA rather than the private car owners.
Okay. All right, Lagos, if you just joined us, we are speaking to the Director of Public Affairs and Enlightenment at the Lagos State Traffic Management Authority, LASMA, his name, Mr. Adebayo Taufik. Well, Mr. Adebayo, I'd like to also ask you about, I think I've asked you that question already, how you're tackling commercial drivers. I wanted to know, your officials themselves, when they go about their duty, they're also sometimes putting themselves in danger. How has LASMA been able to ensure their safety and discourage attacks on them?
Well, when you talk about safety, it's only Almighty Allah, Almighty God that could provide 100% safety for human beings.
True.
But as an agency, we are trying on our own part. Like as a LASMA, now automatically before you go out in the morning, we make sure that we equip them with enough training and retraining. Like last year, out of about 4,555 personnel having in LASMA, the government paid huge amount of money to train well over 3,850 out of these officers last year for a training and in training. We even collaborated with the Lagos State Police school training school at Ikeja that trains all our senior officers and that of the junior officer. We ensure that we pay them adequately, and we make sure that we provided all the necessary gadgets needed for them to function very well. And in order for them to be adequately be safe on the road, that was why the government introduced most of this technology that would, distract, that would bring a kind of a distance within LASMA officers and errant motoring public. Because in the past, you usually have a kind of altercation, a kind of an argument, a kind of struggling within LASMA officers and some of these errant drivers. But these days now, with the advent of this technology now, it has distanced LASMA from having a kind of altercation or confrontation with anybody. Rather, what we just have with you whenever you commit any traffic infraction, it will receive a notification on your phone that you are committed a traffic infraction. And by the time you watch this by yourself, nobody will be with you. You will be the one that will assess yourself. And if you believe that, okay, fine, probably that you have a genuine reason to have committed such a traffic infraction, you have an option, a kind of a button under the video where you will press that says challenge button. If you press it, you state your own side of the story. And then you'll be invited to the Lagos State Mobile Court for a kind of a questioning. And at that mobile court, then you have our arresting officer who will be there with enough evidence in terms of pictorial evidence and that of video evidence as well. So we've seen instances where people challenge it, and at getting to mobile court, they lose out outrightly. And they started pleading with the magistrate or with LASMA to tamper justice with mercy. So these are some of the areas at which the government is looking at the safety aspect of our agency. And equally, to protect that bit, then the agency set up monitoring and enforcement unit, monitoring and surveillance unit within the agency. Their own main agenda is just to go out and ensure that LASMA is doing the needful on the road. They are not to enforce on motoring public, but rather to be keen and be looking at what LASMA has doing on the road. And this has necessitated a situation whereby one or two other LASMA officers have been found wanting. And towards the end of last year, you have 6 LASMA. As I said the last time I spoke on this your station, you have LASMA officers being dismissed for 1 or 2 unethical behaviors on the road. Okay. Because we receive allegations, we receive petitions via our new hotline, LASMA toll-free hotline, and through our physical complaint center that we have at the headquarters. After we receive all this, we go into investigation, and we found out that 1 or 2 are culpable. Then the government showed them the way out of the service. Okay, these are one of the measures the government is using. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We would have to wrap it up here, but thank you very much, Mr. Adebayo Taufik.
You are welcome
for finding time to join us on the show.
Thank you very much.
Lagos, that's a wrap on the show. I'll be with you guys next week. My name is Ufuoma Egbamuno. Take care.
Today is about winning with one play on Nigeria Info. On Nigeria Info, daily winnings is now over 150,000 naira. Just go to oneplay.ng or dial *347 *880 *3#. Play with
99.3 Nigeria Info. We are more than just radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Nigeria Info FM. Check us out on Facebook at Nigeria Info 99.3. Follow us on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM and on Instagram at Nigeria Info FM Lagos for live updates as it happens. 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.